I have some breaking news coming out of Washington, D.C. regarding billionaire George Soros, who has meddled in our elections, the presidency, district attorneys for decades, and his connection to Hillary Clinton and the Russiagate hoax. I'm vindicated on a story I broke to my audience, and some of you questioned whether I was telling the truth. I now bring all the receipts. Also, Kamala Harris gets slapped back into reality with new polling data. To help me go through this and more, I have a special guest, Drew Allen. Drew, thank you for joining me again.
Hey, brother. Good to be here.
So lots of big stories going on. Drew is an author, publisher, and fellow podcaster. Let me pull this up on the screen because out this morning in Washington, D.C., it looks like they are making some serious connections between George Soros, his foundation, and the Hillary Clinton program to rig the 2016 election against Donald J. Trump. What are your thoughts on all of this? I know you are basically an expert in this topic.
Yeah, I'm working on a book on it now, but yeah, look, the George Soros connection, I think it's not surprising to hear that, but that is a revelation. That's something that we did not know before. A lot of the things in this appendix, the Sturm appendix that's been declassified, was confirmation. It's like many of your people in your audience, even since 2016, right, with the Trump-Russia collusion hoax, knew it was a hoax, and you could kind of like the painters do. You mark in with kind of pencil what you're going to paint, and then you start to fill it in with color. We got a lot of color that we got to fill in out of this appendix. That's kind of the analogy I would make. But yeah, I mean, this is big because look, George Soros, the left tries to gaslight the American people like, oh, the Soros boogeyman. Like, no, he actually is evil incarnate, and he is behind so many things. He's behind gerrymandering efforts by the left, Mark Elias, people that are involved in this. I mean, anywhere you look where there's destruction and corruption, Soros's money can be found. So you've got Leonard Bernardo's one of the guys who headed, the Eurasia division or whatever of Open Society. Open Society is the George Soros Foundation. And you've got emails in early 2016. We're talking January 2016, right? Trump's not even the nominee yet. And you're having a back and forth between George Soros, right? We'll just call it George Soros, his people, and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who is the, head of the DNC at the time, and discussing a need to distract from Hillary Clinton's email scandal. So there's a discussion as early as, January, February, March, before WikiLeaks leaked anything. Long before that, there's an acknowledgement here that things aren't looking good for Hillary Clinton. She's mired in a scandal, and they are desperate to figure out a way to make this go away. And then obviously when it becomes clear that Donald Trump is going to be the nominee, and, that's February. But the first day of March, I think, was Super Tuesday, and he won like 7 of 10 or 11 states. And that's when everyone knew definitively Trump's going to be the guy. And then obviously they can go and say, okay, Trump, we're going to make him the target. But yeah, so you've got George Soros's Open Society helping, colluding early on with the DNC and the Hillary Clinton campaign to figure out a way to, help the Democrats win here.
Let me ask you this. This Russia hoax, would they have played this playbook on anybody, or would it only work on Trump because of his money, his wife, his business dealings internationally?
It's a combination of factors. I promise to answer the question directly for everybody. I'm not trying, but it's complicated. So I just want to say a couple things. First off, you never would have had Trump-Russia collusion without Benghazi. Okay. Remember Benghazi when she was Secretary of State? She was unresponsive. It was proven in the investigation that, the ambassador, Chris Stevens, in Benghazi, in Libya, he had been requesting additional personnel, bodyguard, security, all of that stuff. And all these requests were denied. And so on September 11th, right, that's when you had, they came under attack. They tried to blame it on a video making fun of Muslims, and it wasn't. It was a premeditated attack on the embassy, and the Secretary of State and the State Department that obviously Hillary Clinton ran looked really bad because these people died because of their inaction and their refusal to listen to months and months of them asking for help. So out of that investigation, we learned that Clinton had a private email server, right? That's where that came from. So if you didn't have Benghazi, you wouldn't have had the email scandal and the private server and the classified emails. And so she was still under fire in 2016 because of Benghazi and also because of the email scandal. And she was desperate for that to go away. Now, you had a Republican, a wealthy billionaire Republican that was investigating all of the Republican candidates at the end of 2015. All right. That was before Donald Trump was going to be the nominee. He's doing opposition research supposedly on all the Republicans, and that's conducted by Fusion GPS. Fusion GPS found something, because when you're doing opposition research, you're just desperate for anything you can turn into a scandal, right, to hurt the opponent. So what they discovered with Donald Trump was, well, look, he's a billionaire, he's a business guy, so he's everywhere. He's got deals everywhere. He's been in Moscow before. I mean, a lot of American businesses have tried to build there and make money there and revenue there. So they discovered that through those deals, like, wow, he's come into contact with some of these Russian mafia people. And as a matter of fact, before the Clinton campaign hired Fusion GPS. So Fusion GPS has already done opposition research for a Republican. They don't need to do it anymore because Trump's going to be the nominee. And so Fusion GPS supposedly goes to the Clinton campaign at DNC and says, hey, they want to make money. So they're like, hey, we will keep looking into Trump for you. We've already found this information from our previous client about these ties to the mafia. And you have in this appendix, by the way. So this is important for the whole audience to understand. The New York Times and the left wants to pretend like this appendix is Russian disinformation, right? They want to pretend like the New York Times is saying that this appendix actually proves that all the things I'm saying are untrue because it's from Russians. Everything that we already knew is being corroborated by this appendix. So all that information about the previous investigation and so on and so forth, right? So Fusion GPS is already, because I looked at the testimony that they did in the past investigation. So long story short is there are emails between the DNC and Soros Foundation, et cetera, that are talking about how, or the Russians actually understand, they're talking about how they have dirt that are trying to associate Trump with these mafia figures in Russia. So my point is, it's this perfect storm. Okay, they're already looking into this kind of Russia angle. And then when it turns out that the DNC is hacked, and maybe it's the Russians, maybe it's not, they decide, okay, through collusion with one another, let's tie Trump to Putin and vilify him. And you have emails in this appendix that are conversations between the Attorney General of the United States, Loretta Lynch, and people in the Clinton campaign, and discussing how, they're going to do all of this. So the answer to your question is, it's kind of that string of events that leads to them coming up with this idea.
Okay. I have some more breaking news coming out. This is from Congressman Tim Burchett's office. He has formally requested George Soros and his crony, Leonard Bernardo, be dragged in front of Congress. Documents revealed yesterday suggest Soros Foundation was directly involved in creating the Russia collusion hoax with Hillary Clinton. So it looks like the brave Tim Burchett, the guy shutting down the 40 million in cash to the Taliban every week, this guy's now saying, wait a minute, subpoena this guy, get him in, and let's ask him under oath about all of the stuff that he did with Russia and probably all of the other stuff. I mean, this guy has been undermining America for decades. Your thoughts are they going to push back? Are the Republicans going to have the courage to force him to come in and testify?
They better do it. If they don't, I'm about ready to wash my hands with some of these people. Now, look, he's on to something. Those aren't even the most important people that need to be subpoenaed. You have a big audience, Stephen. You have some of these people on sometimes. I hope they're listening, because they don't need to stop there. Christopher Steele was never interviewed. I don't know if people understand this. When Mueller did his investigation, when Durham did his investigation, Mueller in particular, right? Christopher Steele, the Steele dossier, those 17 memos that became the Steele dossier that made salacious, uncorroborated allegations like Trump peed on the hookers or the hookers peed on Trump in a Moscow hotel. That was the centerpiece of this whole thing. Without the Steele dossier, you wouldn't have any of this weaponization taking place, right? That is the center of this. And Steele was never interviewed. So Steele needs to be dragged before Congress. He needs to be subpoenaed and forced to talk and answer questions about this. There are other people as well. The two people in particular that ran Fusion GPS, I forget their names right now because there's a million names I got to hold in my head related to this investigation. One of them went in under the Mueller investigation, because you can go and read all these transcripts, by the way, of all these people that were interviewed. And one of them pleaded the fifth on every single case. He did not answer a single question before the committee. And so, and this is what happened. If you read, and people don't have to do this, you're not going to do this. This is why I'm going to write a book on it. But you read Mark Elias' testimony. You go through all these Democrats' testimony, and they're always lawyered up, obviously, and they are not answering the most important questions, and they're not forced to answer the most important questions either. So there's a huge cover-up that's been taking place for a long time, but now we have additional people. But, Steele and these other people need to be brought out and interviewed. I mean, isn't it amazing to you, like Christopher Steele, the Steele dossier, of all the people you wouldn't interview, you didn't interview him? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, you made my eyebrows go up when you said that. I was like, wait a minute. This guy continues to go on the mainstream media as a talking head expert, and he's never been brought in. That's amazing. Well, I hope that Tim Burchett and others will have the courage to bring George Soros and some of these other people in. Through all of this, Drew, I keep having this one thought in the back of my mind. I wish we had the amplification power of Elon Musk right now. Because during the election, he was bringing out these stories that you and me and others were talking about, but they weren't getting the attention because the left, the mainstream media, Mockingbird media, they weren't doing anything. They would just ignore the story, so half the country doesn't see that. But when Elon Musk would, then it would be seen by a lot of people, 100 million views, right? And then the media would try to attack Musk, which would draw even more attention. I just think Republicans really screwed up when they just abandoned Elon Musk. He would have been such a great ally.
Yeah, I understand your sentiment. I don't know where I fall in it in terms of the blame. I think it's a two-way street. I mean, I can be disappointed on both sides. I'm super disappointed in Elon Musk. I mean, I guess, people on kind of the right, if you will, which are also on, the right on the issues and history and all that sort of stuff. We have a certain amount of, idealism in us, right? And it's just such a disappointing thing because it just feels like Elon Musk is a fraud in some ways now. And I want Elon Musk as an ally. I think that what you're saying now makes me understand and realize, like just because things have changed recently, I think that we still have to acknowledge all the good he did, right? And I just think that this story and what's going on with this is one of the most important things we need to solve, and there need to be accountability for in our nation's history. Because if you think about, Stephen and the audience, if you think about this country, that was really an inflection point, really a big turning point in our country. Because we had Obama for 8 years, and he was obviously one of the most corrupt presidents in U.S. history, a million scandals. But 2016, the left went too far, and 2016 gave way to 2020, which gave way to 2024. I mean, you think about 2016, it was the worst thing that's happened in this history at the time. I mean, the collusion, right, of intelligence agencies and weaponizing against the president with Trump-Russia collusion. But, the purpose of that was to help Clinton be elected. And then once Trump won, they repurposed it to try and end his presidency like Watergate. That's what they hoped for. But 2020 was worse, and 2024 was worse than that, because in 2020, you had a replay. You had 51 former intelligence agents lying to say that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation right before the election. You had the FBI coordinating with Facebook and social media companies to censor free speech, right? This is all 2020. Forget the mail-in ballots and all that stuff. And then you go to like 2022 with a raid of Mar-a-Lago. You've got, Trump-Russia collusion 2.0 was the, from 2020 to 2024 when Democrats were trying to put Trump in prison. They weren't trying to, help Kamala Harris, or at the time Joe Biden, maybe win re-election. They were trying to prevent Trump from being able to run for president at all. And so you see this escalation since 2016, and we haven't recovered from it on both sides, whether you're a Democrat or Republican. You have total distrust in the government. Our institutions are just rotting. We've realized that, obviously, the deep state. That's when we realized 2016 the deep state existed. And the scariest thing to me, Stephen, is something called consent of the governed. The only reason we have a country right now that's moderately peaceful is we agree to abide by the laws, right? We agree to have this government. That's the whole point of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. So there are people, including myself, that still think, whether it's a prominent thought or it's, less right now, that think, well, maybe I don't think we should go along with this government. You know what I'm saying? So we're still there 10 years later. And, that's my concern from a historical perspective.
Yeah. Let me switch gears with you. I was one of the first YouTubers to break this story about how the left was trying to say that if Ghislaine Maxwell was the trafficker for Jeffrey Epstein and he and Trump were friends, then maybe Melania Trump was the trafficker for Donald Trump. And then the media shifted and said, oh, wait a minute, I don't think we can get people to buy in on that. What if we started saying that Trump bought Melania from Jeffrey Epstein? Well, that got back to the White House, and there was a threat of a lawsuit so big it would put the Daily Beast and others into bankruptcy. I just want my audience to know I don't ever lie to you guys. I always tell you the truth. So to see in the comments some of you guys saying that I was making this story up, I mean, so this is just breaking news. The Daily Beast has retracted their story attempting to link Trump to Epstein via Melania. They decided they didn't want to be bankrupted by President Trump. Daily Beast tried to claim Donald Trump met Melania through an Epstein-connected modeling agent. False. The Daily Beast is trash. And now you've got Donald Trump suing Rupert Murdoch and the Wall Street Journal and others for $20 billion. What are your thoughts on this? I also just wanted my audience to see the receipts that, like, I could be wrong in something. I try to be genuine, but I would never purposely mislead my audience.
Well, it's funny. Before we came on, you mentioned that story. I thought maybe I didn't know anything about it, but now that you pulled it up, so I actually am friends with Melania Trump's only personal advisor. And I was texting with him a couple days ago. He sent me this story and actually asked me if I could, we were talking about blowing that story up because it's so frustrating. I didn't realize that was the specific story related to it. I knew the Daily Beast had retracted it. They were forced to, and it's because Melania and them sued the crap out of the Daily Beast and threatened, like you were saying. And the thing I said to him was, you know what? I'm glad this is happening, but you know what? The takeaway for me is, the media gets away with this type of defamation all the time. And only if you're Donald Trump and a billionaire and powerful do you have the ability to threaten lawsuits to get the media to be honest and revise stuff. And it's just so disgusting and despicable. But you can't sue enough people. I mean, these types of things out there, it's a moral crisis in the media that they have no principle. It's like Lincoln talked about, appealing to our better angels, and what you have in the media, what you have in the Clinton campaign, all this stuff. It's like the worst demons have taken over.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I get where some people in my audience, like it's such an outrageous story. Like, of course, Stephen Gardner pumped this story for clicks. I don't need to do that. There's plenty of truth. So I mean, the only other time I've seen this is when I said that Joe Biden abandoned American astronauts in space in order to cheat Donald Trump and Elon Musk out of, good karma. And that ended up being true too. So, like, I wanted my audience to see, not only did Trump not buy Melania through Epstein, she was not trafficking children to Donald Trump. And that story has now been completely debunked. Speaking of Epstein, what are your thoughts on Ghislaine Maxwell saying, hey, if I give up all these details about Jeffrey Epstein, something the vast majority of Americans are saying that they want, I want to be let out of prison. Is that a good swap? I mean, I've been thinking about this is like, of course, I don't want to let someone that trafficked underage people for abusive situations. But at the same time, if you guys really want to know the truth, you might have to give up the lesser devil for the bigger devil. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm suspicious of this whole thing. We've just been misled for so long by so many people. We don't need to rehash. You've talked about it on the show a million times. People get fired up. They'll get mad at me, mad at you, and I don't really care. But, let me just say this, and then I always do this with you, Steve, and I start before, and then I get to your question, but I have to. People have to know these things. The idea that, all these people were just going to be put in prison that were clients of Epstein was always a pipe dream. It doesn't happen in real life. It doesn't happen in other sex trafficking cases. And the reason is because it's very hard for a prosecutor to prove two things. One, that the client, right, the person that paid Epstein or whatever for the sex, it's hard to prove that they, one, knew the person was trafficked, and two, knew that they were underage, So that's just a reality here. So I'm just very frustrated with the whole thing. Plenty of blame to go around, but people's expectations are totally just warped. And we've been promised something that was never possible in the first place. So the idea now that we would say, okay, well, we already prosecuted you and you didn't come to any deal. You were covering stuff up. And now we're going to say, okay, well, yeah, now if you give us something, and now it's so politicized, right? So it's, theoretically, the Trump administration is running things. It's quote unquote Trump's DOJ, even though it's, nonpartisan. So like you're competing. Okay, well, who's going to get her to say what or say a name? How do you know it's credible? How are you going to prove it? Because here's my point too, Stephen. We didn't intend to do this, but we have to. With Epstein, right? We have two names already that have been accused of being clients of Epstein, right? And they came from Virginia Giuffre. And her brother right now, by the way, is on TV having his moment, trying to attack Trump over this and help the Democrats so he can go screw himself, that guy. But Virginia Giuffre, she told us that Alan Dershowitz was one of the people that had sex with her. And she also gave the name Prince Andrew. So do you see where I'm going with this? We have two names. Alan Dershowitz threatened to sue her, and she said, well, maybe it wasn't Alan Dershowitz and I was mistaken. And then Prince Andrew, obviously, people assume he was there, but nothing has happened or is going to happen to him. So what's going to happen if you get 600 more names that are on the list from Ghislaine Maxwell? We have two. And I am not accusing either of those people necessarily of being guilty, obviously, but my point is, she said these are two people that had sex with me, raped me, whatever. And okay, so you get a list of people that Ghislaine Maxwell, like, are you going to prosecute that somehow? Like if she gives names? I mean, if she says, well, Bill Clinton was, what way we assume that Bill Clinton was there and was involved in stuff. Is he going to be prosecuted and go to prison? So I don't like what's happened to this. It's just become a political weapon of the left and the right now, where you're just trying to score political points for your team. And that's not what this was about. It should have been all along about the victims of abuse, but it's become about, well, who were more Democrats screwing the young girls and clients of Epstein or more Republicans? Because this is going to prove to you that Republicans are disgusting pedos or the Democrats are the most disgusting. It's like, I don't like, we lost the lost the plot, I think, with this in some extent. So I don't trust like Ghislaine Maxwell. I don't think it's right either. I mean, what can she give us that would warrant her walking free after what she did? Is there something that she could give us? I don't think there is.
Yeah. I mean, me personally, I'm more interested in the pedophile rings that Dan Bongino and Kash Patel are taking down right now. I mean, I read
Yeah.
these stories and I'm like, man, they just liberated a dozen children right now. And that story doesn't get any attention because they want to talk about Jeffrey Epstein. So I would like to get to the truth. My worry with Ghislaine Maxwell is she goes, I need immunity because I'm the only person that knows the story. And Congress goes, hey, she's the only one that knows the story. But then in her prison cell, she goes, hey, I'm the only one that knows the story. I could literally say whatever I want and ruin people's lives. But again, if there's no evidence, no tape, no nothing, like it's not going to go anywhere. And she could damage real bad guys. She could also damage people that she's just making up names. So I don't know what the final outcome of that's going to be.
Yeah, well, I can see people writing in the comments right now, F you, F you. But, this is real talk and real conversation. And, I'm an adult that, likes the big picture and I like to live in reality. And so, you made the point that I think is great. I was on, with Stacey Washington, your buddy Stacey Washington, who's great, on her show the other day. And we we're talking about, a similar thing. And she brought up your point. She's like, what about the current pedophile rings? What about these things that are happening right now? And I get it. Some people don't like that because, for them, Epstein represents the pinnacle of everything. And Epstein's the solution to our problems and it's going to solve it forever. And that's not true. It's been blown up. I'm sorry to say this, Drew, I hate you, but it's like, it's outside in its actual relevance.
Yeah. Let me switch gears with you. You're out in California. Kamala Harris announces, I'm not going to run for governor. But she is gearing up to run for president of the United States. The next day that she announces that, she gets a reality check from CNN's data. Let's watch this and react.
Yeah, I would just say, hold your horses here. The chance that Kamala Harris is going to be the 2028 Democratic nominee, they don't look too good right now, to be perfectly honest with you. Chance of being the 2028 Democratic nominee.
Don't you do the caveat of like what year we're currently in?
I believe we're in 2025, though. It kind of feels like 2045. There've been so many years and just one so far. Look, Gavin Newsom is the favorite at 20%, according to the betting markets. Do not sleep on Ocasio-Cortez. AOC right up there at 15%. Buttigieg 9%. Shapiro 6%. Harris all the way down at 6%, basically in a tie for fourth place at this particular point. So if you have any ideas that Kamala Harris is passing up a potential gubernatorial run-in for 2026 in California and perhaps would be trading up for a presidential bid, the betting markets at this point, simply put, do not buy it. Yeah.
So the next day, she makes this big announcement. She's already going into fundraising mode without officially announcing. And they literally, CNN, her biggest base, comes out and says, you're dead in the water before you even start. Your thoughts on that?
I mean, she's so delusional. I mean, she thinks she's Ronald Reagan, she's going to come back and win in a landslide. And there's no chance. I mean, she was a terrible candidate in 2024. It was a absolutely desperate move by the Democrats who didn't have anybody. I mean, their bench is so short, small. There's so few players there that they can even put. I mean, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is up there as the second right now. But, Kamala Harris has always been a loser. It's just, she's I mean, usually the media can create hype around someone. I mean, they really can. I mean, they did it with Barack Obama. People think Barack Obama was some like really popular president. Yeah, he actually wasn't, if you actually look at facts and history, especially when he ran for re-election. But the media, can pump that out and, make a perception reality. I mean, Kamala Harris, the first time she tried to run for president, right, in 2020, I mean, she was like the first person to drop out. I mean, it was like, you drop an ice cube in the Sahara Desert. I mean, that's how fast her ambitions for president, melted. And she couldn't fundraise then for president. Nobody would give her money. That's why she had to drop out. Nobody likes her in California, her home state. So, I mean, Kamala Harris is like the only Democrat, or maybe specifically woman, that could possibly be less likable than Hillary Clinton. I mean, she makes Hillary Clinton seem like, I don't know, some kind of, lovable Democrat option. I think that's how bad Kamala Harris is. And she's just stupid. I mean, that's the thing too. I mean, she's dumb. I don't know if she has a drinking problem, but she seems drunk a lot. And she's got no chance. I mean, the governor would have been her best shot in California because she could probably win, because any Democrat can typically win in California, the way things are set up and how goofy it is out here and corrupt. But like, I want people to understand what the message is here. People in California, all right, Democrats in California, dislike Kamala Harris so much that they won't even choose her to be governor here when it's guaranteed. That's how little they like Kamala Harris.
That was my exact thought, Drew. I thought, if you are the most popular Democrat and you don't have confidence that you can win California, why are you running for president? Because if you don't win California as a Democrat, you don't win. Like, I would love for California to flip red. I believe it's more red than a lot of us believe. But now you've got Gavin Newsom this morning. He was on a show saying every single move Donald Trump makes California go a little bit more blue. So keep doing it, Donald Trump. You're making us bluer. I was like, I don't buy that. I don't believe that. So she's going to get slapped back into reality harder than Doug Emhoff slapped his girlfriend. Another story that I reported on that nobody wanted to cover. Anyway,
you were right about that too. Yeah,
I was. Yep. Drew, thank you so much for coming on. If people want to catch your show, follow you online, what links can I put down below?
There's the Drew Allen Show at Daily Clout, right? X is Drew Thomas Allen, and drewallen.substack.com is another link. You can always find me there.
Okay. I'll put those direct links so that people can find you easily. Thank you for taking time out of your day to come on. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too, brother. Thank you.